Call the meeting to order, please. The Town of Winslow, Maine, Town Council meeting, Monday, August 10th at 7 p.m. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Lisa?
Yes, Ben Twitchell.
Yes.
Jerry Quirian.
Yes.
Steve Russell is not here. Patricia Ayer.
Yes.
Jeff West is not in yet. Lee Trahan.
Here.
Ray Karen.
Here. Yep. Approval of the minutes of the previous. That
So
will be
moved.
on
Second.
July 27th, and the meeting on August 3rd.
Not going to pledge allegiance?
Hmm?
Pledge of allegiance.
Whoops, I'm sorry. Yep, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Going over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, approval of the minutes of the previous July 27th and August 3rd.
So moved.
So moved by Jerry, second by Trish. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Communications, the MMA, Maine Municipal Association, proposed nominees for 2021 Executive Committee. You all got that in your package. Vice President, you can vote for one. There's only one running. Executive Committee members, a 3-year term. There are 3 members that are nominated, and you can vote for 3. There's 2 options that we have here. We can all sign this if we want to vote for all 4 of the candidates, or we can have Paul, as our designee, sign it and return it back to MMA.
Make a motion that Paul is our designee.
Yep.
Sign it and return it to the
Second.
MMA.
Second, any discussion on that? No discussion? You know, I looked at the names. There's no one from Central Maine. There's a town of Ludlow, town of Grand Isle, town of Waldoboro, and the president is city manager of the town of Biddeford. So they're all within this. So Paul, you all set with that?
I'll fill this out, send it out tomorrow.
Okay, great.
All in favor?
All those in favor of designating Paul, please raise your hand. All those
Yeah.
opposed? Okay, passes unanimous. Election clerks needed for, I would have to say, the November 4th election, right? Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, we're trying to get as many residents that would be willing to work at the polls. My list is getting shorter because of COVID, and a lot of the people that I currently have are already high risk. So if you know of anybody that would like to work on election day, we have various hours, we pay them, they get a free meal, it's a lot of fun.
I nominate Mike Hebner.
He's already on my list.
2.
I did that before he left. So if you know of
And
anybody.
his wife.
Yes, she is as
Okay.
well. If you know of anybody, please ask them to come see me or find it right online. I have the applications online. And today I received 4, so that made me happy.
And what does it entail for the entire day, obviously?
It can
but
be-
training period before then? that
We
you
will
have to
train
come to?
prior to the election. We'll have a meeting with everybody to go over everything that's going to be happening that day. It's going to be a big day, so.
Yep.
And the clerks are not just for election day, they'll also be used for the 4 days prior for absentee processing, so we need people for that as well.
Okay.
That's it.
Yep, sign up.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Reports of committees and commissions. We'll start with the town manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I've got a couple items. Everybody saw my report. I think my report is fairly clear. One item that I wanted to bring up that wasn't on the report, coming from our bookkeeper, is regarding counselors' pays for all the meetings you guys have been going. The charter says you guys get paid for every regular meeting you attend. So she was wondering if you guys are getting paid for 2 meetings a month? Something that you guys, because normally it's only 1 meeting a month.
One meeting a month, right.
So, I mean, if you guys say you're gonna pay for all the regular meetings, it's fine. She just needs to know when the time comes to tally who's here, who's not here, and who gets paid for what.
I make a motion that we continue to get paid for 1 meeting a month.
One meeting a month.
I second
Right. I don't think you have to. I think the town charter says only 1 meeting a month.
No.
Yeah, we voted that in January.
Yeah.
The charter says you guys meet at least once a month. It doesn't, and it also says you get paid for every regular meeting. So if you have 2 regular meetings a month, you could get paid twice.
So do we call the second meeting a special meeting? And then, so then it's not considered a regular meeting?
Yeah, I think the consensus of the council is that, we get paid for 1 meeting a month. So I think that, let me get with Paul, I'll look at the charter, we'll see, what we can do, and, I don't think anybody's gonna complain if if...
No, I just wanted to bring it up so that...
Right,
when
right.
because I think
Let's see
you
what we
guys-
can do, and we'll find some way to
I'm not
get
sure you
paid
guys
once a
get paid.
month.
You
I
guys
think
get- you
that's
guys get
proper,
paid.
especially during this time of of what's
That's fine.
happening and with the budget and stuff.
I was asked that question, so...
Yeah.
By council?
No, by Tanya,
Okay.
Yeah.
because she's the one that actually pays you guys, so she wanted to know what she was doing.
Yeah, is that all you want to comment on?
The only other item I have is you guys mentioned about a paving bond, and you want to know what money could do, so I put together, I've got urban and rural roads.
After you pass that out, are you going to be discussing your report?
My report?
Well, no, I'm just kind of curious if it's based on need versus, or based on evening out between rural and urban.
What I did right now is you guys have mentioned 2.5 million, so I put about 1.5 million in the country, 1 million in town.
You divided it up, $1.5 million out.
About 1.5 million in the country and 1 million in town.
Okay.
That would do all of Sunset Development, paving only. And then when we start doing subsurface work, then obviously they're going to be different. In the country, I split it up on 3 years. I got fancy and put colors. A lot of work in that.
Yeah, is that online?
No,
Can we put it online, just so people can take a look
We can-
at what
we could.
we're spending?
we could. I just get that done today.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the 3-year schedule in the country with the 1.5 million is assuming that we would still get our $500,000 annual allotment, so that'd be like $1 million a year in the country.
Yeah,
We could get most of the country done in 3 years.
yeah, okay.
And of course, because if we just spend the bond money and we don't get our regular allotment, then we're spending the same money we're doing now, so we're not gonna get ahead.
Yeah. And again, that bond for utilizing some of the funds for next summer, we will do the engineering if we, in principle, agree with the $2.5 million bond. There's going to be a lot of revenue stuff coming up.
Yep.
But that we would apply again in February, I believe, right?
I don't think you have.
We would do the engineering work, apply for the bond in February, and then we would be ready to start some of the projects in next summer. So we'll take a look at the finances this spring, and in the first payment, we're doing that so that the first payment wouldn't be due until fiscal year 2021-22. So our first payment would be not this cycle, but next cycle, but still be able to get some work done for next summer of much-needed work, especially starting in the Sunset Heights
Right.
area.
So in the Sunset Heights, my plan right now, hopefully, if not this week, next week, put an RFP out for engineering to start looking at the sewer work, so we have some idea
Yeah,
what we're looking at for costs and see what we can get for either grant money or low-interest loans, so.
yeah.
And what have you already started to do on the Bassett Road?
We continued some ditching areas that we had water problems, we were washing out shoulder, so we ditched that area. Let's get most of this done this year,
Okay.
because I'm running out of money.
No, yeah.
But we had, I'll give this to Steve here. We had an issue with washouts on that shoulder, so.
I'll take it. I gave Steve mine.
Oh, okay.
Greg,
Yes, go ahead, Ben.
what was the amount for the bond? 2.5?
$2.5 million. Yes, 2.5 million, yeah. And we have two schedules, one would be a 10-year schedule and then a 20-year schedule. Obviously, 10-year schedule is what we usually go with, just because it's a harder hit, but it just makes sense wise as far as, yeah, go ahead, Lee.
Question, as far as the nominal amount for the bond, where did that 2.5 come from?
Well, that would get, Paul, go ahead. It's kind of,
It was a number that Ray and some of the other councilors kind of pulled
Just a round
out.
number that popped up?
Yeah.
we have $2.5 million bond. Between $2 and $3 million, usually between the principal and the interest, it keeps us down around $200,000 for a yearly payment. So that's usually a pretty doable type of a payment. Anything higher, we just can't foresee in the future. Anything lower, it just seems to like, doesn't get the work done. So,
Okay.
I mean, we're open for any type of thing. I think when we look at, in February, when we make the decision either to do the bond or not, we'll look at economically how we're at and how that payment, how, easy or not easy, we're gonna be making that payment, so.
I mean, at this point today, I would say, I think it should be more than 2.5, and maybe up around 3, just so we can get more roads done.
Yep, go ahead, Ben.
When we discussed it, through the chair, when we discussed it initially, there was a point that the town crew could only do X amount per year. And that's why we kept it down, because if we went over the 2.5, it was going to put it out so far, as far as what he was going to be able to
Yeah,
complete.
yeah. We have some pretty serious work, other than this bond, that's gonna be needed in the future. Chaffee Brook and the pump station and the line across the river to the sewage system, that's gonna be a massive project. So, we try to get the roads done, and then, on the horizon, when we have bonds that are coming up within the next couple of years, we try to replace. So a lot of the determination on the amount of the bond is what is being, what's being finished, and then what are those payments, and then what is,
Well, speaking of the Chaffee Brook, that project, is that gonna be somewhere around 4 or 5?
Yeah, it's close to 5 million.
Yeah.
But see, that we can bond for like 30 years.
Well, that's
So that brings the payments down, because it's got a long life.
It's much needed.
But the road project's hard to go much more than 10 years, because then you'll be paying on the road that you're getting ready to pave again, and it doesn't.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
Through the chair to the interim town manager. I see you got 2.4 million for sewer replacement.
Yeah, those numbers are kind of rough numbers. I just threw,
That's fine.
I threw that in. We're probably at least that in that Sunset Development by the time, there's 2.5 miles
How
of
much money do we have in capital account for sewers?
probably about 400,000 maybe.
So are we looking for grants on that one?
We will when we get a firmer number, when I get an engineer in there and get them designed and get some better cost figures, and then we'll start looking to see what we get for, because of the loan that we got for Benton Avenue here through SDA, it also puts us in a better position now to get some grant money, because now we have an indebtedness that we didn't have before.
So if we can't get grant money, then what do we do?
Well, we either decide we do so much a year for the next 5-6 years with what we have.
Yeah, then we'll be spending part of that 2.5 million for sewer. If we get some grants, obviously, we can defer that to more,
Well, that's
more
what
roads.
I wanted to point out,
Yeah,
is that there's no guarantees.
there is none.
And the last bond that we had was, we had to use for the break we had.
Right, Cedar Brook.
Yeah.
Yep, that's for sure.
That one won't be coming back.
Yeah, well, on a little bit of good news is that, we were estimated, it's in Paul's report of like having around $820,000 revenue sharing. We're down now to about 778, so we've got quite a bit. So it's not as bad as it hit.
We're losing about 110,000.
110,000, so we were looking at 50%. I thought we would lose 50% of revenue sharing. So that's a big, that's a little bit of a relief. Next month, we're gonna have to decide, we're gonna have to look a little closer at the budget and decide how we're gonna make that up. And so we've got a few ideas on that, so we'll
Well,
see
some-
what the other revenues coming in are.
Sometime this month, I'll be getting, probably next week, we'll be getting Judy's figures on the assessment and the
Yep.
proposed tax rate, and we'll have to look at that at that
Yep,
time to
see what a,
see where we go.
yep, so, but that's really good news. And who knows with the stimulus package, if it's passed in Congress, we'll get some, there's money for states and money for towns in that, so hopefully something will happen there. Anything else, Paul? Or-
No, I think that's it for now.
Okay, that's it for now. Lee?
Through the chair to town manager, have we heard anything new regarding the Crow Road property?
Have not heard a thing. So I'm assuming no news is not good news. I'm assuming the Realtor would get in touch with us if something would happen. I'll try to get in touch with him this week and see if he can reach out to them, see if they've made any decision on where they're going.
Yeah.
I'll try to get you guys. If I hear something, I'll send everybody an email.
Yeah, could you get us an update on that? That would be
Yes,
great.
I
Yeah,
will.
I think, we're all kind of, would like that to happen if there's a chance.
Sooner than
You
later.
can't hurry it, but,
Thank you, Paul.
Through the chair to Paul, what's going on Bellevue Street and that property?
Nothing at this point. You guys will have to decide later on discussion if you guys are interested in selling any town-owned properties. I get the assessment card for that property, and we can discuss it under the discussion items of town-owned properties. I have another one that you need to decide on what we're gonna do as
Okay.
well. I was gonna keep that to the end.
okay. Is that it, Paul?
That's all I
You all
have.
set?
Yes, thank you.
Department reports. Yep, yep, sorry, Trish, about that. Trish made a motion to, go ahead, Trish, your motion was?
Only getting paid for one meeting a month.
Yep.
And Lee seconded that.
I second that, and so we're just gonna have a show of hands for that. All those in favor is just getting paid for one meeting a month, even though 2 regular meetings are scheduled, and we'll look at the bylaws. Raise your hand, please.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Department reports. Captain Fleming, would you like to come up and give us a summary of the month and how things are going down in the police station?
Assuming everybody got the report that I typed up here. A lot of moving parts for July, trying to catch up a few projects that had been in limbo that were scheduled and take on a couple of new ones. I was able to successfully secure, at this point, a couple grants that are going to be coming in to help augment a few purchases and whatnot that we want to do. I wrote in the report, we have a lot of investigations going on right now, so if you see the overall numbers maybe have declined a little bit, there's a number of large investigations going on, 3 gross sexual assaults and whatnot. I'm sure several of you have heard, I think a couple of you have heard, there was a bunch of motor vehicle burglaries up in like the Bellevue, Clinton Ave, Halifax, Monument area. We got 1 male adult apprehended for those, and he was transported to jail. We're following up on some others because ironically all the burglaries weren't connected. There was one guy out doing some, and it was a couple of younger adults out doing them, so we're trying to follow up and get the other people responsible. There's a lottery ticket investigation going on that's kind of interesting, not something we deal with all the time. Several thousand lottery tickets that were recovered by us that were stolen from different gas stations and whatnot from around mostly Kennebec County, more on the southern side. One drug investigation you see in the second page of the report, where we seized 94.5 grams of fentanyl off of a subject and some other random seizures. And another drug arrest was made. The new police car took a little bit longer to get that ironed out than it normally does. We had the vehicle on time. I picked it up on July 1st, but some of the stuff that had to go inside of it was back ordered. Anyway, it's out here. now, just came in it came in Friday, but we just started using it yesterday, today. That's all good. We're just waiting on one more thing. Implementing a new piece of equipment, which you'll see the bottom of page 2, top of page 3 in the report. We're working on policy. It's a pepper ball system. We're working on finishing up the policy for that. And personnel-wise, with the exception of the chief position, we're fully staffed and very thankful for that. Hard to recruit people to get in the business right now. I know that some local agencies have had 1 or 2 openings and are having not even 1 applicant. So I'm thankful that we're not experiencing that too much. We haven't actually had to hire anybody for 2.5 years, which is unheard of for local Maine police departments.
It is.
So very fortunate to have the retention opportunity here.
Yeah. And I'm sure from the council, we appreciate you stepping up and assuming the responsibilities for the department during the hiring process and
Yes.
stuff. So thanks a lot.
Yes, of course. Pretty obviously familiar with the budget, and the new budget kicked into place, and we're just business as usual, finishing up a couple loose things and bringing in a couple little things, but
Yeah.
keeping it steady.
Okay. Great.
Any questions from anybody?
Any questions? No?
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Peter, I thought Peter here someplace.
It's hiding. Don't blame him.
Sure. Last Wednesday, the administrative team met for almost 9 hours to finalize a lot of pieces to our plan. We still have more pieces to go. After that, that was brought to the re-entry committee the following day for their review and suggestions. That night, we brought it to the board for a preliminary concept approval so that we could get information out to the parents. The board approved it. We still have some finer details to work out, but we have posted the plan. You can go to the Winslow website, school website, www.winslowk12.org. You can read all of the notices that I sent out to parents to keep them informed throughout this whole process this summer. You can read the plan, which includes the start date for school, which will be August 31st. It gives you the first month's calendar, how that's going to work out. With the letters of the alphabet, we're going to start a hybrid model because we can't, from the perspective of social distancing and wanting to be as safe as possible, and for looking at the whole aspect of teaching our students safety and building relationships with students, we want to start with the hybrid model, which means we'll have 2 cohorts, a A and a B. One cohort will be letters, the last names of the alphabet A through L, small a. The second cohort will be L, E to Z. What will happen with that is that on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, cohort 1 will be in school. On a Tuesday, Thursday, cohort 2 will be in school. The following week, they'll flip. On the off days, they'll be doing some remote learning. We will do this for the first 4 weeks. We will continue to assess and evaluate how things are going during that time and make some decisions as to how we continue after the first 4 weeks. So far, the comments that I've received have been positive in nature. Today, we had a leadership retreat with our faculty members, our department chairs at the high school, the junior high, and the elementary school. Had a plethora of questions that needed to be answered in terms of finalizing the handbook and how we start off the year. There were some great conversations that were being held in terms of defining hybrid learning, what it means, 3 days a week versus 2 days a week versus whatever. So all in all, as your superintendent, I'm feeling pretty good standing here before you this evening, knowing the teachers and the administrators and the crew that were working together for the students and families of this community. I feel quite confident that we have a good plan in place to get the year started. We will continue to monitor, we will continue to be safe, and we will continue to move forward. The other part to that is, you may are thinking, In order for this to work for us, we need to position ourselves for the worst, and what I mean by that is social distancing. Green, which is what the entire state has been assigned a risk factor, is the best rating you could get. That's all great. However, green is still with safety requirements. One of those safety requirements is social distancing, meaning you still have to stay 6 feet apart. In a classroom, you can be 3 feet apart with masks. Students and staff are required to wear masks at all times. If we don't do that, we get shut down. So, if you take a class of 19 students, typically, in one case we have a class of over 20 kids at the elementary school, you cannot put all 20 kids in there even if they all wanted to come back. So that means we need more space in order to accommodate those students if they all want to come back to school. In order for that to happen, we had mentioned to you the possibilities of using the old junior high for one of our grades. We would like to keep grade 6 here at the old junior high. We've also had conversations with Lori Leesott and Jennifer Leesott. One of the barriers that we have is childcare for our own staff, because some of them have children that attend other school districts or attend our school district, so when they're at work, they have nobody home to take care of their children. We would like to expand our child care program and house both the child care program and grade 6 at the old junior high for this year, this coming year only. We've had conversations with all of the players that would be involved. All of the players agree that it's a good move. All of the players are supportive of this. So again, there are many pieces to this plan, and those are 2 pieces that were major barriers in order for us to keep moving forward. Busing is still a concern for us. As Ben knows, our buses will take 50, 60, some of them 70 students. Right now, the word from the state, they're still working on a final decision, but right now it looks like 28 to 34 students is the max we can put on a bus. That's the case, it causes some pretty serious problems, because it's difficult to get the kids in if you can only put that many on a bus. To that barrier, I'm putting out a survey tomorrow to all parents. There'll be another email, another survey, asking if they plan on choosing the remote option or if they plan on sending their child back to school with the safety precautions, since we are green. And if they're planning on sending their students back to school, do they plan on transporting their child in the morning or afternoon or both? Once we have that information, once again, we'll be able to adjust, look at our bus routes, and see how many students we can bring in. There are a lot of moving parts, and we're still working hard at making all the parts go.
And your start date for all schools, or is there a staggered start date between?
August 31st is the start date. Freshmen, it'll be K to freshmen that first day, I believe, and then everybody will be the next day. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's in the, if you go on the website, that
Yeah.
information's out
Okay.
there.
Yep.
Question through the
Yep.
chair. Peter, what are the concerns regarding the elementary younger students with keeping their mask on type of protocol?
This is another reason, Lisa, that's a great question. This is another reason why we want to start slow on the hybrid model, because if you have fewer kids in class, you're better able to go over the safety protocols with the kids in order to make them understand the importance of keeping their mask on. And so it's going to be just like anything else. You've probably heard of respectful, the responsive program that we have at the elementary school when you were a board member, how that called for a morning meeting and how it called for certain things to take place during the course of the day, and it was all about how we treat each other and how we, well, this will be the same thing. It's just going to become part of the routines that we have in school while we're in this COVID-19 era.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Peter? Go ahead, Jerry.
Through the chair, Peter, how many 6th grade students do you have? that are gonna be utilizing the existing junior high?
The
And-
survey goes out tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'll have a good idea, or we've asked that parents return the survey by Friday of this week. So I'll have a pretty good idea of who's coming back at that point in time.
and how many childcare students,
Well,
Yeah.
they're licensed for 75. Currently, they have 50 in the program. Those are parents of our children in the community. So we can increase the program up to 75. In order for us to do that, we need to hire 2 additional people to work the 8 to 2 shift. We will hire those 2 people using some of that relief funds that we're going to receive, so that it doesn't cost the taxpayer any money locally, but we're able to provide assistance so that their children can come to school.
how many classrooms are you looking at?
Again, that will depend on the survey and who says they're coming back or not, but I would think we would be looking at 4 or 5 classrooms for grade 6, and we would be looking at probably 3 classrooms or more for the childcare program, maybe 4, the areas.
So you'd be somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 10 classrooms?
Yeah, but the other thing we gotta keep in mind are the laws. So the little ones, we can't have them going up and downstairs, so we've gotta locate them on the bottom floor.
That's fine.
So then the 6th graders will have to put them probably upstairs someplace.
Now, yeah, are you through here?
I am, I'll
Yeah,
get it
if
over
you-
to you.
Yeah, but, you know, a lot of the, and if I'm wrong, please, but some of the, we've got qualification for some CARES money, I believe, that would take care of the junior high portion of the heating and, or is that not true?
I have to write a plan for the CARES money that we received. There's 2 pockets of money. One of them runs out December 31st, and that pocket of money is designed for you to reduce your barriers and get your schools started. The other pocket of money runs out in September of '21. That's a much smaller amount of money. So to directly answer your question, part of the plan, we've written money in to help with payment of the oil or whatever it is for those sections of those rooms.
Yeah,
Now, the amount of money that we had discussed earlier, the worst-case scenario, hopefully it's not the worst-case scenario, but we could support quite a bit of that.
yeah. And obviously, there's an effort continuing through KB Cap to turn 40 housing units there into, we actually have a presentation at the September meeting from KB Cap that's going to come and present that plan to the council and what that entails. And, I would urge you to maybe get a hold of them, because if the town decides that they're somewhat serious about moving forward with renovation of the junior high school, then there was some possibility that they might have some money to, because it's to their advantage in the future to keep the place heated. So you might want to just, as we have that discussion next week, we'll ask that also, that maybe was in their plans to heat some parts of the building.
Sure.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yes, to the chair. I understand you're getting 1 bus in Winslow, or you've asked for one through the COVID stuff. But where are you going to get your extra bus drivers, even if you have some spare buses?
Yep.
When you've got to cut them back to 20 or 30 kids per bus. A lot of the runs here in Winslow do a double run every day anyway.
Yep. It's a great question, Ben. We'll advertise for the bus drivers. One of the things that's being done in other communities is that they're advertising to send them to Class 2 schools and guaranteeing them a job if they complete it and they go back and they work for that community. Unfortunately, our CARES money didn't go that far for us. But at least we were able to get an additional bus.
Yeah.
The additional bus will help us in a number of ways, including in another year. We won't have to budget for 2, we'll just budget for 1 kind of thing. So there isn't an easy answer to your question except to advertise and see what we can find. It's the same thing with substitute teachers. every single district is scrambling. What we've done is we've advertised for 2 substitute teachers in each of our buildings and said, we'll pay you to commit to us for the year. We'll use the CARES funds for that as well. So those are the types of things in which we're doing to use some of that money to reduce the barriers and help with some of the issues that we have. We also have to take into consideration the number of meetings that I'm having with teachers that I might be compromised and can't come back. So then we've got to figure that out as well, because there are laws in place for everyone, not just teachers, that say these are the requirements that you need to meet and this is what you need to do as an employer in order to meet the requirements for all. So again, there's a lot that we need to still figure out. But I stand here tonight feeling a lot better than I felt the last 8 weeks. So I got a great school board chair back here, Joel, very supportive. The board is very supportive. You guys have been extremely supportive. So, to think about where we are and the community that we're in, I feel very blessed that we're all pulling together. So that's a really nice feeling.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to mention too. Just thank you for your work, Joel. I know you put a lot, but also, when I go to the meetings, I just see a teamwork approach. There's just so many dedicated people trying to make this work and for the good of the kids, because they know that in-person learning is really, there's no substitute for in-person learning, and if you can pull it off, that's the best way to go at this particular time. And thank you, and please pass on the thanks from from the rest of the council, town manager, and everybody, and good luck in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks, that's for sure.
Question from Lee.
Lee?
Through the chair, Peter, I know, I'm just trying to kind of think outside. Have you reached out to any of the other surrounding communities to see if they might be in need of space like we're doing, and that the possibility of maybe leasing out some classrooms to other community schools to generate some revenue?
Am I on TV right now? I don't want to put anybody in a hot seat, Lee, but it's almost as if you were, with me tonight in the back seat. I was on a phone call prior to coming into this meeting with another school district, not across the river, someplace else, that is looking for space. So I told them that once we figured out how many classrooms we needed and what that might look like, that if perhaps we could help them with space, that we might be interested in doing something there as well. So I don't want to speak too much and jinx us, but there's a possibility, Lee.
All right, I'm glad to hear that it's been at least entertained.
Yeah, let's finish up with Peter. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, of course, St. John's is shut down.
It
And
has.
they've got all those classrooms there, too.
I reached out to St. John's when this first started to see what the possibilities were,
Yep.
and they are not interested in doing anything with their buildings at this point in time.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I checked that out right off at the beginning.
Go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. This is just for one school year, if I'm correct.
Let's pray that it is just for one school
Right
year.
now,
Yes.
that's what we're planning. We're not planning for 5 years or 6 years. We're planning for 1 year.
Let's pray it's 1 year.
Predict the future, Peter.
Okay, so any other questions? If not, Peter?
I'm all
So thank you very much for all the work you're doing. All set, Lee? Thank you. Financial committee report, treasurer and warrants. We're all set there. Financial report, we're all set there.
Move to accept our reports.
Yep.
Second.
Although,
Who was first?
Steve was first, Lee second.
Thank you.
It's not roll call, it's just show of hands, right? Show all those in favor, accept the reports, all those opposed. Thank you very much. Unanimous. Public comment, part of the meeting. Anybody in the audience wish to get up and address the council for a maximum of 5 minutes? Please, at this point in time, feel free to do so. If no public comment, close the public comment section of the meeting. We go now to table business. providing for the authorization for town manager to accept the attached proposal letter of agreement for Dirigo Engineering to design a drainage system for property on the Cushman Road at a cost of $14,000. Paul, could you comment on that and make a suggestion, please?
Well, at this point, I really don't think that this is gonna happen. If we do drainage work in the Sunset Heights development, it's probably gonna take care of most of this problem, so I think we should take this off and just dissolve it at this point.
Yep, and the $2.5 million bond is going to alleviate a lot of this.
It's gonna help,
It's
and
going to help this, it'll be part of that. So,
Make a motion to dismiss the resolution? Is that what we did?
yeah, I'm not sure how it should be worded.
I
but-
think we can say, if we want to dissolve it right now, we can just say,
Have to take it off the table for,
have to take it off the table and bring it on, so.
Okay, make a motion to take it off the table.
Second, okay. Discussion? No discussion? All those in favor, take it off the table, please raise your hand. All any opposed? No opposed? Now it's off the table. Resolution number 25, 2019, Dirigo Engineering to design a drainage property on the Cushman Road at a cost of $14,000.
So moved.
So moved by Jerry,
Second?
second by Trish. Discussion? I think we're pretty much going to handle the engineering work as part of the $2.5 million bond. If that goes through, it'll take care of that problem.
this is to dissolve that.
This is to dissolve, yep. No vote, I believe we'll send it away. So if you want to send it away, just vote no on it. And I think I'd like a roll call vote for that, correct?
We can do that.
If, make a motion to end discussion. Seconded by me. Roll call vote, please, on resolution 25, 2019.
And a no gets rid of it.
No gets rid of it.
That's what I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yep.
Ben Twitchell.
No.
Jerry Quarian.
No.
Lee Trahan.
No.
Steve Russell.
No.
Patricia Ayer.
No.
And Ray Karen.
No. Order number 15-2020, providing for the sale of 5 tax-acquired property.
Motion table.
It's tabled right now, it's on the table, we can take it out. Paul?
I would like to see it tabled off so we can dispose of these properties. I have spoken to one of the previous property owners, and we've come up to a resolution, so
Yep.
if we can get it off the table, then I can discuss it.
Yep, so we
Second.
need a motion to take it second.
Yep.
Open up the discussion, what Paul just said, we can move forward with these after we had some discussion. Any other discussion on that, take it off the table? Yep,
No, not to take it off the table, I'm sorry. I thought it was
For
already
the
off the
chair,
table.
it's not off the table yet.
The individual that you've been speaking with, is that the same person that we've been discussing?
It is.
The same property that has
It is,
multiple properties with the same address?
yes.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, yeah. So, that would be a show of hands for coming off the table. So, all those in favor of taking resolution 15-2020 off the table, please raise their hands. All those opposed, unanimous. All those opposed, unanimous. It is now off the table. And now, order 15-2020, provided for the sales of 5 tax-acquired properties. Open,
So moved.
so moved.
Second. What did you say?
He seconded it.
Okay, Jerry, second, and open for discussion.
Tom?
Yes, Steve?
Was the problem with the one property owner resolved then?
It is, I've spoken to Mr. Davis, and I believe he's here tonight, but
He is here.
Yep.
Okay. So I've never met him, so I was assuming he was here. We had a discussion, and apparently it was a legal issue when they bought the property. The deed never got transferred. I believe we came to understanding, if the council is so willing, to sell it back to him for the back taxes due on that property.
So that property is gonna be removed from this list?
Well, it'll be sold as part of that list, but you guys can make the decision if you want to sell it to the previous owner for the back taxes and this year's taxes.
So basically, it has been sold back, basically. That
Because right
one.
now, it's ours.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other properties, we're going to put out with realtors and put them out on the open market.
So the other 4 pieces will be put out,
3.
three will be
Two
put out.
of them go with this property.
Oh, they go, there's more than one? with
One's a
this
piece of
property?
land, one's a building.
Okay.
The other
And those are going to be offered back to the previous owner?
Yes.
Trish?
Can we give him the opportunity to speak?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
If you
Do you have
would like-
anything you would like to say?
No, I mean, thanks for the consideration. We've been paying taxes on it since 2007 when we thought we owned it. And up until, I think it was last year, 2018, when Judy discovered the issue, she sent the previous bill to the Avian Farms address, which is no longer in existence and hasn't been. We bought it at auction through the Bank of Siams. There was just a mix-up apparently with the lawyers and transfer of everything, so.
Yep,
I mean, we've made some investments in the property and put a lot of stuff into it, so.
yep.
Well, the one parcel is where the White House was that you tore down,
No,
right?
no, it's, we tore down, from what I understand, it's when you drive up into the yard, it's the actual plot that the building on the left is on. And there's, I think, some backland towards the CMP power line, which we were paying taxes on the whole lot. From talking with Judy, we were paying it as one unit. And then 2018, she broke her heart, and we were unaware of that.
Yep.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, I believe on the Hayward Road, we had done the same thing. We sold a property to the abutters
Yep.
for taxes owed, and that was my recommendation here at the
Well
council.
said, Tom.
So wishes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad we could resolve that issue, that's for sure. Yeah, I bet you are. Any other discussion?
Do we need to break that apart and specify it in writing how we're going to,
I guess you could make an amendment to it to specify this property gets sold back to the original owner.
Well, the order number had all of them there, and you've already taken a portion of them, so really you don't have to amend anything, because they're still all there, but already sold.
So there's only 3 that will go
Yeah.
out to public.
You should be all set.
I agree with this too, so.
Could you just, we'll take the, is that 2 readings usually?
I think did we take the first reading, Lisa?
I believe that
I
you
think we did. I think we
Yeah.
did,
thought
but
we
we
did.
tabled it for a second.
Should, and Bill's all on board with what this is of the properties?
I haven't discussed it with Bill. I can if you wish. Normally, the other 3, we would put them in the hands of a realtor.
It was not.
It was not?
There was no first reading.
Okay,
There was no
so
first
this
reading.
so this would be the first reading.
This will be the first reading, so what I would do is, since we're meeting every 2 weeks, we got another meeting, well, we'll have to decide that, but we'll take the first reading and then maybe have the lawyer take a look at it just to make sure that we're okay. Steve, go ahead.
I think we ought to separate the parcels. And the ones that we're going to put out to bid, vote on that, and then, and vote on this one separately with further review from our attorney. But I think they ought to be, we're disposing of them in totally different ways than what was originally proposed. And so I think there needs to be an amendment to separate the properties in question.
Somebody want to make that amendment, please?
I make a motion to amend order number 15, 2020, to separate Tom Davis's 2 parcels of land into a separate order.
And the Hayward Road
And the
property?
Hayward Road property.
Hayward Road's already done.
All
Okay,
done,
so
so
just the
that's
2.
done.
So there's 3 properties that would go out for bids or sale.
So we're just assuming now that the Tom Davis property is taken care of, we won't have to have a special order for that, is that correct?
Upon review from our attorney to make sure everything is,
You're still going to need to take the order to
we're still going to
allow
have
us
to
to
probably
sell.
vote on that separately.
Nobody seconded me.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Lee.
We still have to technically sell it back to him.
And you want the lawyer just to look at the tax, the tax issue, or?
You just want to make sure every T got crossed in a situation like this. You don't want somebody coming back later and saying, how come somebody got a special deal and got a chance to buy it back and nobody else did?
So
You just
then,
want to make
do you
sure.
want to table the order that I just made to separate that until the lawyer reviews it? Is that how?
I don't want to complicate this, and I don't want to make it any more lengthier than it already has been. And, you know, this is the intent of the council. I think per every member is to sell back that property that was a mistake in the beginning, and he paid taxes on, and I just want to get it, as fast as we can, but prudently and right. But we've been dealing with this for a while now, and I feel that, you know what I mean? Yeah, we should separate it, but then what does that mean? Do we mean we have to do another order at the next meeting, or it's going to be up to Bill, I guess, right?
So, but if he
But
doesn't see an issue with it, then we can waive the second reading
Yeah,
at the
if
next
Bill gives us a
meeting.
clear, we can just do both readings next meeting. And it'd
Yeah.
be the same thing. You're gonna
Okay.
do one reading
Yeah.
tonight and one
Yeah,
reading
we
in 2
can,
weeks.
we can
anyway.
waive the second reading.
We
It'd
could
just
waive the
be
second.
another 2 weeks that we would have to wait. Tom, did you have your hand up?
No, I was just going to make, the only comment I was going to make is our attorney who was involved is Mike Phillips, who works with O'Donnell Lee, and he's...
So he should have it all up to
Yeah.
Yeah,
speed.
he and Bill have been talking quite a bit
Okay.
in the past few weeks anyways.
So you're okay with just waiting?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay.
Shouldn't be
That
an
sounds
Okay,
good.
so I made a motion, Lee seconded it, and then, do you want me to make a
We're
motion
having
to
discussion
table
now.
it, or-
We made a motion to
Separate that piece.
separate that piece out
Put
of
the
the
other,
process.
so the motion now is to put the other three up
Out
to a real.
Yep, so
That's the motion on the table.
is to separate that and to vote
If her,
on
if her
the...
amendment passes.
Yep, if her amendment passes. Any more discussion on Tricia's amendment to take the Tom Davis property out of this tax-acquired property sale? If no discussion, that's going to be a roll call, I believe, right?
It will be.
It will be. Go ahead.
Ben Twitchell.
Yes.
Jerry Crew.
Yes.
Lee Trahan.
Yes.
Steve Russell.
Yes.
Patricia Ayers.
I know, it's weird,
And
yes.
Ray Karen.
Yes.
You were almost Patricia Karen, sorry.
No, thank you.
That's not how,
No,
that would
thank
make
you.
her very happy.
No,
Okay.
That was the amendment, am I correct?
Yeah, that was the amendment. Now,
Now, doing the
taking order
amendment is-
15-2020, but now that we've amended it on the table, we got to take it off the table. No, it's off the table.
It's
right?
off the
table.
It's
Now
off
we
the
vote
table.
on that as amended.
Now, as amended, order number 15-2020, provided for the sale of 3 tax-acquired properties.
Now, is that clear when we vote for this, because it's been amended? Is his property now is out of the way because it's paid for and everything?
Well,
He's all set, right?
He's not all set, but yet we'll handle that at the next meeting. So we just want to get some advice from Bill Lee on that. So that's what we're voting on now is 3 tax-acquired properties.
Yep.
And that'll come up at the next meeting with Mr. Davis's property. If no further discussion, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Ben Twitchell.
Yes.
Ray Karen.
Yes.
Jerry Crew.
Yes.
Lee Trahan.
Yes.
Steve Russell.
Yes.
Patricia Ayers.
yes.
Okay. That wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Seems like
Whatever
it
you say.
was. New business. Ordinance number 4, 2020, an amendment to the Winslow zoning map to rezone the following lot on tax map 13, lot 115, from high-density residential zone to mixed-use
So moved.
zone. So
Second.
moved, seconded, open for discussion. Adam, you want to?
We actually have an applicant here, if you have any questions for me.
Yeah.
Were you given the map?
We were
Yes.
giving the new one,
Yes.
yes. We did receive the updated version of it, yep.
That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yep, yeah, we did, yep, we do.
We have a request if somebody wants to use it in a commercial way, and right now it's high-density residential. Changing will allow them to use property. Here, it's still quite short-term.
Yep, sorry, Adam, yep, yeah.
The property borders the mixed-use zone on the north and the east side already.
Yep.
So, then also the planning board voted unanimously to make the change.
Yep. Good, Mr. Martin, could you come up to the mic in case some of us have any questions? So I know that it's high residential to mixed use. What is, and just for, what's your plan for the property? There was some house lots that you're going to do, plus some commercial type of interest?
The biggest issue to need to change to mixed use was the fact that in order to park my loader in the garage, it has to be a little bit taller, and to be taller, it won't qualify at high density. Therefore, we need to get into mixed use to get a taller garage to park the loader inside. Been working on it for quite a few years now with the former Mike Hevener. He'd found a property too, and we tried to work something out, just never worked out what we wanted. Finally found a piece that can keep us in town to service a lot of the businesses in the community, and the schools, and a few others that use our services.
Yeah.
And plus, I'm trying to, establish a residence for one of my boys. I got 2 boys that recently graduated college, and like to keep them in the community for the future. Like to raise the tax base a little bit by maybe creating a, property's been sitting vacant now for quite a few years because of the sewer issue. I've worked with Paul on this process and trying to come up with a plan that's kind of a working plan for everybody. I can elaborate if you need me to, but basically it's to get the ability to put a house and a garage on that facility.
Yeah. So you don't currently store your loader there at this particular time?
No, without a garage, it's kind of doesn't make sense to.
Yeah, and the noise wouldn't be in the high residential area that, that abuts some of your property there. I know mixed uses, but there is some high resident. Are you concerned with noise, or if it's okay with, obviously the planning board thought that it was okay, it met the zoning requirements, and a garage there for that type of use is okay in mixed use then?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty low volume type of business. I mean, all my servicing gets done elsewhere. I service it out. I don't have my own working shop, so to speak.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is in the wintertime is I need to have it indoors. They start hard in the wintertime.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's why the town has all their equipment in the garage. But it's tough in the wintertime. And sometimes when it doesn't start, and the school's counting on me to be there at 5:30 in the morning to get it plowed off, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't start, it's a real problem. I've
Yeah.
had issues in the past.
Yeah,
So
I know
I'm
that.
looking for an area to do that.
Yeah, and I know you don't have, do you have access to the property right now? A road access to the property? I see where you're going to access onto Marie Street.
You could access either end, but the other end is going to be retained. It's going to be split eventually. On the other end, we're going to privatize both ends, basically, is what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
And in the process, we want to try to get an easement turnaround for the town so they can get in and get turned around. Because technically, there's not really am I correct in saying, Paul, not a easement
Yeah,
spot to
I
turn
mean,
around?
we would get an easement from them for the turnaround at the end of Lee Street. Right now, where we're turning around is on private property, which it still will be, but we don't really have an easement for that, and I believe the lot that we're turning around on will become a house lot, so he's willing to portion out a portion over a storm drain that we would use as a turnaround,
Yeah.
and would remain as that.
And how do you access the property now? I know you probably answered that. but-
Well, it can be accessed from either end, but
Yes.
the intent is Marie Street for me.
Marie Street, which is currently between 2 houses now,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah.
So that's the old skating rink.
I've heard that term a lot, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
So you would come in from the China Road side, you mean?
Correct.
Ben, you had a question?
Yeah, because that dirt road per se, been there for, I've been there 30 years, it's always been there. Now, you really wouldn't come in on the lee end,
No.
because that basically stops there at the end of that road.
Right. On the lee end would be privatized. There's the potential for a couple house lots if it gets through the
Yeah.
subdivision review, is it, Adam?
Yeah.
Correct me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so really, you come in that dirt
Yeah.
road between those two. I noticed you guys have done some work on that, started filling and putting stuff down to improve that, because it used to be all swamp through there.
Yeah, and we've done some stuff to please the neighbors as far as creating a better drainage for them.
Yeah,
and
I noticed that.
Trying
Okay.
to be a good neighbor. So.
Yeah, and because it's a zoning change, the abutters will be notified, and then they'll have their opportunity on the second reading, and we'll probably wait a month and not at the next meeting, but at the following meeting. September meeting, September meeting, we will, the abutters will be here, we'll have a public comment portion of it, and that's how probably it's gonna work. So the first, any questions that we have between the first reading and the second reading, we can answer, or, we can go up and take a look at the property and see what's, and see what people think out there. Any other discussion? If no other discussion, ordinance number 4-2020, an amendment to Winslow zoning map to rezone.
Thank you.
Tax map 13, lot 115 from high density to low. It's a roll call vote?
It is, you ready?
Yes.
Ben Twitchell.
Yes.
Jerry Query.
Yes.
Steve Russell.
Yes.
Patricia Ayer.
Yes.
Lee Trahan.
Yes.
Ray Karen.
Yes. Resolution number 33-2020, providing for the authorization to compensate Paul Forgemy as administrative office with the powers and duties of managing transition to a new town manager. What's the will of the council?
Second.
Second. Ben and Jerry, second. Discussion, please.
Question,
Yep, go ahead, Lee.
did we resolve the nominal amount?
Yes, we did.
It's on there.
Yep,
All set.
all set. Any other further discussion? If no discussion, this is not a roll call vote. It is a
It
roll
is
call.
not.
No.
No, you're
It
right.
is not a roll
Show
call
of
vote.
hands.
That's what I thought. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please. There's some people in the audience, and I'm gonna, because of discussion items, I'm gonna take some of the discussion items out of order. The first one I'm gonna do is, you had in your packet a discussion item for the consumer fireworks ordinances for the town of Winslow. And I brought this forth as a citizen. I've been listening to some of the citizens in town that have been rather upset over the last probably couple months, at least most of the summer, about fireworks that are being put off in the town of Winslow. So I said, we've discussed this many times over the years. I don't know, I wanted a little discussion as to if other councilors in their district have fielded any complaints with fireworks. You have, Lee?
Yes.
Ben, none?
No.
No, no.
No?
Captain Fleming, I hate to put you on the spot, but I have talked to you about fireworks and how through the police department, you handle complaints. For now, we have a noise ordinance that we pretty much, if I'm wrong, that's what we usually do. And we go by the state fire marshals, it's the state of Maine laws on fireworks, which is pretty much grammage, is that type of thing. So, could you comment on how you feel the problem is, or if we handle it we can handle it with the current situation, and how extreme that you think it might be, and through the year?
We don't get a lot of complaints for it. It could be potentially difficult for us to catalog because when the dispatcher answers the phone, if they log it in as a fireworks complaint, so we have two different kinds of complaints. We have fireworks, and then we have fireworks with injury. So if somebody set one off and it caused an injury, so there's two ways that can be cataloged. Or the dispatcher can log in as a noise complaint. So when we go back and try to run numbers, we would really have to forensically analyze those calls because there's three different ways it could be entered. But we don't get a whole lot of complaints for it. A lot of times people will call it in a less rural areas, maybe like gunshots they heard, and we investigate it later, find out it was that. Of course, under the Title 8, we have standardized provisions of you have to be over 21, it has to be on private property in which you have authorization to do it. You can't be under the influence of narcotics or alcohol, etc. And I think that if the town wanted to move forward with its own ordinance, similar to the one that you had authored there, that we looked at, that I would feel comfortable having our administrative assistant issue those permits, and then we could have it on file within the police department. This would, how that would work, different from what the state law allows, is simply we would be made aware, so if somebody did call in and complain, that we could give them an answer as to yes, a permit has been issued, similar to a burn permit, I think.
Yeah.
So, you know, as far as inspecting an area, you know, prior to, I don't know that, I think that could potentially consume resources, and I don't know that, you know, I would probably recommend shying away from that, only because then if from a risk management standpoint, if a firework was set off and happened to land somewhere that we couldn't have forecasted and something happened, I'd hate for us to come back on the town in any way when otherwise it would be that person's responsibility.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I can hear what you say.
Yeah.
And, you know, it seems like there's pockets of people, like,
Yeah,
you know, 99% of the town's not affected, but there's this one place that really loves fireworks.
yeah,
And it seems like every weekend,
Yeah.
they pull them off. Now, if you just get a complaint a couple times, you know, if somebody puts them off once a year or 3 times a year or during
Yeah.
special events,
Yeah.
most people sometimes can do that, but it's these people that weekend after weekend after weekend seem to want to just do fireworks on Saturday night when, you know, some people want to sleep. I know
Right.
that 10 o'clock is the deadline,
yes.
that they can, but still.
And I would say, in my experience, that deadline is not necessarily followed all the time. That sometimes, especially in the summertime, where they want to see it in the dark, and it might be light still after 9 o'clock, sometimes they're still going off. We get there. Usually, the goal is voluntary compliance. We try to shut it down without enforcement action. Unless somebody has a gratuitous amount of them, they don't usually last that long. The problem is, like you said, is that we have a few people that they're really into it and it's going on all the time versus an occasional thing.
Right, and, you know, there's a lot of times, I know it's a grammage that makes a difference, but aerials seem to be a concern for some people, whether it lands on a
Roof.
lands on a roof or lands on a house or something like that. I know
Yeah.
that that's been part of the complaints that I've gotten
Yeah.
through people too.
And I know in particular Waterville and Augusta have an ordinance against them. I'm vaguely familiar with their verbiage,
Yeah.
but I think as it was at least theorized here, where it was on a permit basis,
Yeah.
or, you know, that there was some sort of conversation ahead of time, and then the collaboration could work in a way where maybe we only authorized it for one particular address once every 3 months, or maybe we could add that language in there if we were, what the goal was that we were trying to address somebody who was doing it habitually all the time.
Yeah, right.
You know, that we could kind of put the brakes on and
Yeah.
restrict it to a certain amount of days rather than shut it down just altogether.
Yeah, in this ordinance, it just says, I just picked, like the Oakland says that you got Fort Halifax Park, and I said, you know, half a mile around Fort Halifax, which would take care of the majority of the high residential areas.
Yeah.
But still keep a majority of the town of Winslow open
sure.
for fireworks, but
Yeah.
in high residential areas,
Yeah.
that seems to be, you know, what Oakland did,
Yeah.
and they seem to be able to enforce it, but we talked about this so many times over the course of the 12 years that I've been on the council, and, you know, we allowed fireworks to be sold in the town of Winslow,
Yeah.
and it would be very bad for us to say, all of a sudden, now we can't,
Right.
we support fireworks establishments, but we don't support the use of fireworks.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to make a balance here, that, and every once in a while, we're trying to come up with a solution so that the chronic users of fireworks aren't, you know, causing problems for the neighborhood.
And I would say, just off the top of my head, without preparing for it, I believe it was back in probably August or September of 2012 when they were legalized in the state. And during that time, we were having 50 calls a month. It was really intense and excessive out of the gate. And then over time, it slowed down once it became less of a novelty.
Yeah.
But I think you hit the nail on the head by saying that it's really, a select few, 2% of the people, 90% of the time.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much. Adam, I know we've talked about this a little bit. Do you want to add to the conversation any?
I agree basically with what you guys have been saying. From a code enforcement perspective, from what I read.
Adam, I don't mean to, could you come up to the mic just
From what
because?
I've read, the proposed ordinance seems like it would be an administrative nightmare. I get done work at 4:30, and how am I gonna know if somebody's lighting fireworks off at 8:59 or what have you? It seems like these pockets of troublemakers could be dealt with via our noise ordinance. If they're constantly doing that problem, then maybe they can be dealt with that way versus having the whole town sort of have to pay for it. Bad apples.
Yeah. How about the idea of a permitting for use of fireworks, not, they would come to a permit at the police department or something?
When I do permitting, I like to be able to do inspections, and it seems very time-consuming, and how part of the ordinance I read was a 50-foot boundary from your property line. How could I know if somebody lit it off 40 feet from their property line? I wouldn't know. So how can I enforce such a permit? Also, I'm not an explosives expert by any means, and if I gave somebody a permit to light off fireworks and they hurt themselves, there could be liability issues. So I think that the troublemakers can be dealt with easier than having a whole ordinance for them personally.
Discussion among the council. Ben?
Yes, I remember being involved in this 8 years ago when your sister was here, and we were trying to go through the same problem here. And at that time was when it first started in the state. Started getting reports, and we asked each time we had a meeting, how many fireworks reports did we have?
Sure.
Remember? And they started doing this.
Yeah.
And if you start penalizing people with the permits, they're permitted to death in some respects already, then they're gonna have to go to the town office and get a permit to do fireworks. You're not gonna be able to enforce it.
Yeah.
One other thing, when people have a problem with something going on in town, 99% of the time they come to me. And I have not received any complaints, so I'm not really sure. I know some of you definitely have, and it's definitely a problem for some people because of those bad apples, but overall I don't see it as a trend, or else I would be receiving more complaints.
Jerry?
Yeah, through the chair to, the captain. How many, I'll let you come up to the mic, but how many reports of injuries have caused by fireworks?
Specifically back in 2012, there were several. Over the years, I'm not familiar with any even in 2020. For the most part, people have, with the novelties wearing off, the usage has gone down, therefore the unpredictable injury has reduced. I think people have become a little more familiar. They've been illegal in Maine for so long that, let's say, a 21-year-old goes out and gets them, didn't have any experience with them. Well, now everybody's got 8 years experience with them. Maybe, maybe just hypothetically that could have something to do with it.
Now, if you had a permit process,
Yep.
how are you going to know that the people firing these have a permit?
Yeah, so.
You might show up over there and nobody's around.
Right, yeah. And sometimes that's the case because somebody might call it in and say, I saw it from 123 Main Street, and that's where they're calling from. We go there and look around, and it's not always evident where they were being fired, and sometimes if it takes us 6 minutes to get there, the fun's all wrapped up before we get there. But if the case is that there is an address, I think we can go there and certainly have a consensual conversation with somebody. If they don't have a permit, the first step would be education. Just, hey, next time we're looking, this is the process that we've implemented. And I think that was in the verbiage. As far as enforcement, obviously that would be reserved for the habituals, people that repeatedly we had an issue with.
But you have the capability now to take care of that under the existing laws.
We do. The only struggle that we run into, and I think that maybe the goal is here, is that we may show up at 9:20 at night. Somebody may have called us for a noise complaint. We show up at 9:20 and we're kind of left between somebody is offended by the noise, but the person's not doing anything illegal as far as fireworks are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, one could make an argument in an objective way of thinking that if we issue a permit, there still could be someone offended by the noise, but maybe it would be reduced. Of course, going through the permit process might reduce, like I said earlier, if we put a clause in there that without exception, you can only apply for one permit every such period of time, something like that.
Then you're penalizing people who really pay attention and do what they're supposed to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and of course, like I said, the first response would be just to educate and have a friendly, consensual conversation.
Yeah.
This is always going to be an issue.
It is.
It's an issue every year. I've been on the council for 5 years, and we discuss it every year. And my issue is that we should not have allowed a business to open up in Maine and support families here in the town if this was going to be an issue and we were going to pass rules at a later date. It's going to be something that we always talk about. It's always in the what's happening group, 100% all the time.
As long as people bring complaints forward to the council people that get elected, then I'm going to bring it to the council.
I understand.
Yeah, that's what I asked for.
I understand.
Should we have a committee?
Oh, my
Look,
gosh.
I'm just asking.
I don't think there's much we can do.
I
There
don't
isn't.
think right now, I'm looking at what I'm hearing, and we don't want to, one thing we don't want to do is fix a problem that we don't have to. If there's no problem, then putting something in place usually complicates some issues,
And from here on the rest of the year, you're not going to have much anyway.
The only issue I have, well, I don't like them because of my livestock, but they get used to it. The only issue I have is doing seasons of drought. And I think 2 years ago, we did a ban
Yep, we did.
on
We
it
did.
for a period of time.
Yeah,
That's
we
the
did.
only time.
It was fine.
That's the only time we can do it, I think. I think you're overstepping
I agree.
unless there's dangers and hazards.
And one thing from our perspective that I see sometimes is the people that might bring a complaint forward to the council, that level may be a lot different than them picking up the phone and calling us at 10 o'clock at night. So you may be hearing a hyperbolic version of it versus what we're actually seeing on our end. It's hard to say without comparing the data.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that I also had was, if we did this could tie up a lot of your resources.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would get to a point where I was concerned by it. Again, I would recommend that it just be as simple as coming in, speaking with the administrative assistant, who we have doing a couple things similar to that. Concealed weapons permits to operate on unregistered vehicles, things like that she handles. She could issue this permit, then we would all have it. We would know about it. Again, I wouldn't personally recommend going out and doing like a site check. That seems like, because right now, that's of course not required. Anybody can light them off anywhere, so I don't know why implementing that would be any different than what they could do now. But either way, if somebody calls and makes a complaint, whether there's a permit or not, it's probably going to cause us to respond. So it probably won't consume up the resources a whole lot different than it does now.
What you're saying is, before you issue a permit, you go out and check the site?
I would prefer not to do that.
Okay, not
Yeah.
to,
Yeah,
because that would really tie it up.
that I do think it would, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, it's easy for us to sit here because I don't have a neighbor that puts fireworks every Saturday, Friday and Saturday night, right next to where a high residential area at night.
yeah,
So if I did that, I would probably
yeah.
feel a little differently than what I'm doing. Even though the minority of cases here is still the severity is for those people
Yeah.
in that situation is high, you know what I mean?
And to the people affected, the frustration could be very real. I know when it first happened, in the Cone Street area was a real high volume of fireworks being set off, and we were over there all the time, and the people were getting very frustrated and emotional over it because it was just
Yeah.
repetitive, nonstop. So,
Yes,
yeah.
and that's what I'm dealing
You know,
with.
if you don't experience that, it's hard to maybe connect with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we've had the discussion and then, you know what I mean? You know, we had the discussion tonight. I'm gonna, if, you know, since I'm the one who brought forward the discussion here,
Yep.
if I feel after talking to the powers to be that I want to put something in, I'll put something in. It can be defeated or it can be not. I'm just gathering information at this point and stuff. Just for myself, I can only speak that right now I'm just kind of don't know what I'm going to do, I guess. You know, I feel for the people in the minority that have the problem, but yet I don't want to, you know, put a solution in place that's going to cause a lot of trouble either for enforcement or for law enforcement. Yep, go ahead, Ben.
And I remember 8 years ago when we went through this process, if it's voted down once, it's gone for a year. You can't even bring it up for a year.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay with me, just as long as, you know, I represent some of the people that have complaints.
Oh, yeah.
I have a duty to represent them, but I also feel that the business is good to run a business and someplace in between. Someplace there, you know, you can't, for some of these people that are just irresponsible, they're gonna be irresponsible whether there's a law there or not.
Yep.
I'm speaking to the choir in your case.
Yeah, that's why
right
we're
now,
here.
but, yeah, that's why,
Yeah.
so I think we'll just see, it's a discussion item tonight, we'll
Yep.
move forward and we'll move off that. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you.
Thanks. The next discussion item is the acceptance of a Town of Winslow Diversity Declaration. You all have a copy. If you don't have a copy, just let me know, I can hand you a copy. The way this came out is before Mike left, he asked me if I wanted to be on a diversity and inclusion committee. I said yes, I would be happy to. It's held at the chamber. We're meeting twice a month. We're meeting once a month now. The group came out with a declaration of that. The town of Oakland is voting on it this week. The town of Fairfield is voting on it this week. And I pretty much copied verbatim what the committee had wanted to bring in front of the council. And I wanted to put it, I think I would like to make it as a resolution, and I'm opening that up for discussion.
Do we have a problem in Winslow so far with the diversity thing? I mean, we got all different kinds of people here.
We
I've
do,
heard no complaints.
we do. This is just a statement that would reinforce it, that Winslow, that we are this type of thing. I think there's, you know, even though we don't see all the problems, there are problems. There's obviously, we can't stick our heads in the sand and say there isn't a problem. There is problems with inclusion and diversity among, whether you're race, whether you're gender. This just says that the town of Winslow, it doesn't say we're welcoming, that we're welcoming to people of all races. It's just a statement that we're trying to get the communities to just have a resolution that we support all races, we support all genders, we support everything in that, and that's what the declaration says. I feel very strongly about it. I think that it's a good declaration. I think we do have problems, I think, in society in this, and this just states that the town of Winslow is open to all people and all races, so.
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
So is the council making a political statement, or am I voting as a counselor for representing my constituents?
I don't consider this a political statement, but that's just my opinion on that, you know.
But am I voting for the people that elected me, or am I voting as an individual counselor and we're voting as a council?
I think we're
It's like-
representing the people. If the majority of people believe that this statement is what the town of Winslow is all about, then I think that they should feel that that's a positive statement. You don't have to read the statement, whether we have a problem. If we have a problem, I don't think it's widespread, but I think that this statement is not a political statement. It just says that we're welcoming for the people of all people in the town of Winslow. So I don't think it's a political statement. I hope that the people that I represent would feel wholeheartedly in supporting this document. That's just my feeling. And I'm open for discussion. So at the next meeting, I will bring this forth as a resolution, and then we can vote on it or not vote. You can vote your conscience at that time and stuff. And I'm open to any discussion. In between time, just give me a call or something.
I have something that I'd like to bring up.
Yep, go ahead.
So I got a message because we're doing our live feed right now. Someone asked that if we were going to be doing a Zoom type setting for these meetings, or doing Facebook Live or something like that, because they really liked what we were doing when we weren't meeting at all and we were all chiming in.
Yep.
So do we have a plan for that?
Right now, we're streaming live, right?
Yeah, we are.
We're streaming
Right.
live still on the local network, right?
Right. But I didn't know if they're specifically asking for a Facebook Zoom type setting where we can have instant communication.
I did.
Right, but we're not live on Facebook. That's what they're asking. Like live on Facebook like we were before, where people could chime in
And comment.
and we could see it live, and it was actually a phone sitting here. That's what they're asking. So I just wanted to know. I mean, I'm for it. Everyone knows that though, so.
Go ahead, Steve.
There's several people that I've talked to about it like the idea that it's being streamed live.
Yeah.
That there's an opportunity for them to see the meeting,
Yep.
Right.
and they did like that.
Yes.
This is additional.
This is additional, so
Right.
this is me, like, I'm an admin on the town page, as are several people, but going live on my phone and then reading comments, so we have public comment, I can read them.
Lisa, do you set that up normally, or how do we go about?
I was doing it before from my office, I had my phone on a laptop, doing the live stream that way. I don't care how we do it. I just think that when we get comments and questions and stuff like that, we should be able to read them, and it would be more interactive.
The other option is the link for the live stream is posted on our Facebook. People could comment under that,
On the town's Facebook
and then
page.
that could
Yeah.
be monitored during a meeting.
Yeah.
So even though there's a lag?
There's a lag no matter what.
Right. Okay.
Always a lag.
Okay.
Yeah, I would prefer, if we're gonna do it, to do it on the town Facebook
Correct.
page.
I agree.
Yeah, that's what we were doing before.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you get into Facebook and Zoom and all that stuff, it's a little different than what we got here, because now you're putting it out even further
Yeah.
than the streaming that we're
Right, more
paying for here.
transparency.
I think that's good. I think that's good. Lisa, could you, at the next meeting, report on, like, instead of,
Yeah, I will,
get with Chad?
I will check with Chad and we'll figure out something.
Okay. I think that's very positive, and the cost associated with that, if there's additional
It
cost.
brought a lot of comments over the last few months when we were Zooming from our homes, so yes.
Yep, okay, sounds good. So and if, we can talk too, and and with Paul, and if you want the three of us to get together, and maybe we can set that up for the next meeting, because it sounds like, So we can do that. Sale of town-owned properties, discussion? I'm not sure about that.
Well, I had two items, Mr. Chairman. The first one was the request I had brought up the other day about the Bellevue property.
Yep.
And I did get the tax card, the assessor's card on that. It's assessed at $26,000 is what the town's assessment was. We had a developer that was interested in purchasing it and building some high-end
Yep,
townhouses, I believe is what he called them.
yep.
So I guess I would need to know if the town is interested in selling it, pursuing that option.
I'm having
Talking
a
to
hard time
Amanda.
hearing what you're saying, Paul, sorry.
Talking to Amanda, the property on Bellevue Street
Yeah, yeah.
on the riverside. We had a developer that was interested in purchasing it and building properties on it.
Do you know when we came in possession of it?
I don't.
I wonder why we never put it out to bid.
Because it isn't a very
I think
big
at the
piece,
time
it's
it
a
was more,
banking right there.
it was a green space and, you know, with the fireworks and everything in the past. It's pretty
So
well grown.
how can anybody build on it if it's not
It
very
would be
big?
difficult.
That's why the developer would like to get it really cheap, because he knows that the development cost is gonna be high.
That doesn't make sense.
They don't always make sense, but somebody's interested in building, so I
I
guess,
mean, if we're expanding our tax base, then
you know, I've spoken to Amanda, she's not interested in keeping it as a town asset. It's pretty much just a burden right now to keep it mowed and keep it clean.
Well, that's a mixed-use area? Yeah, that's mixed use, or, you know, is it residential or mixed use?
High density, isn't it, up on top of the hill?
I would think so. Let me see if I can figure out the tax card here.
I think it's
Well,
high.
if we, you know, what I could see, if we sold it to somebody, and with the intention that it be high-end townhouses, and then all of a sudden, it's used for another thing up there or something, you know, what other uses that it could be, that unintentional uses? Yeah, if you're gonna build a house, a townhouse, Gary? Mixed use. Mixed use?
It is.
So, anything that would be that parcel land would be used for would have to go through the planning board under the mixed use.
Well, you'd have to be able to meet the permit requirements to begin with. And I'm not familiar with that property off the top of my head, but if it's the one that's... If it's the property, I'm Gary Owen. If it's the property that's, that overlooks the cliff,
Yeah, it is.
and right now, my mind says that there's a couple of rock stones in there and maybe a little bit of cleared area for, it might be 70 feet by 30 feet.
Yeah.
I don't know how big it is. I don't know how you'd ever build on it. So, contrary to the thought process that you just presented, my thought immediately was, we ought to keep it. Just because it's going to look, you know, I mean, it's just, if somebody owns it and they don't take care of it, then you're going to have an eyesore there on that, but, you know,
And basically, that's like a buffer between the people who have a house there and the railroad tracks.
yeah, that's right. I just, you know, I mean, I've had 30 seconds to think about it,
I
but...
mean, I'm not pushing the agenda one way or the other, just knowing, without disclosing who the developer is, I don't...
What's it cost us to maintain that over a year?
Besides picking up the dog poop,
Not much.
it's pretty much a dog park right now.
So I guess if it's not buildable, which it certainly isn't, it might be just in the town's interest to keep it. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just saying, logic tells me that that would be the thing to do.
For me, excuse me, I'm sorry, Gary.
All right?
For me, if it's buildable, put it out to bid. I mean, that's what we do.
But 30 by 50, can you build in town on the 30 by 50?
that's for his problem to find out, not ours. If he meets the building permit and the setbacks, then have at it.
Yeah. One of the things about the town is, you know, we have property. If it's able to be developed,
Right.
we want to have it developed. So I would take it to say that, you know, if we have tax-acquired property and somebody wants to buy it and then put a taxable structure on it, we want it.
Yeah.
We would really like that. Go ahead,
I
Steve.
agree with you. My only concern is that
I
we're
have no argument with that. I understand completely what you're saying.
But I don't know that, looking at it from a practical point of view, if somebody's going to be able to build on it unless they go straight up.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. Go ahead, Steve.
My concern isn't necessarily what gets built on it, it's how we dispose of town-owned property. And we have to be consistent and do it the same way all the time, or else we're gonna get accused of being
Right.
special deals for special people or something like that. If we're gonna dispose of property through a realtor, let's dispose it through a realtor.
Yeah.
If we're gonna dispose it through bids, dispose it through bids, one or the other.
I guess for the next meeting, one thing I would like to do is have Adam go out and look at the property, see, you know, what his opinion is, whether it can be used for something, and then maybe take it to the planning board and say, hey, this is a property, this is something, what is that? At least we would have an opinion, because I think if it's tax-owned property, we can't just as a council decide, we're not gonna sell it because we don't think that it's gonna be an eyesore. It's not up to us, I think Trish said it, it's not up to us to determine. If somebody wants to buy tax-acquired property and wants to build a structure on it, we can take Adam's advice and the planning board's advice and say, hey, maybe you at least give us an avenue, you know, another opinion on whether we should
find out from people in the neighborhood too. If it's a dog park now, maybe they like it being a dog park. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the property, so I can't speak.
Could you do that? Could you just talk to Adam, have him go look at the property, and then see what his opinion is for the next meeting, and then maybe he can bring it to the planning board. The planning board can take a quick peek at it and say, I don't know what you can put on it, you know, and at that point in time, at least we would have their opinions.
And the assessor could give us a value of it and what she would send a bill to the new owner.
Yeah, yeah.
And what we would collect every year.
Yeah.
How do we know the tax acquired, you know, we have no record of that, right?
Used to be, I'm being told it used to be a chapel in the 30s.
A chapel?
Huh,
In the 30s.
okay. I say Parks and Rec is the one that's currently using it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're maintaining it, they're just.
Say again?
They're maintaining it because it's a town-owned property.
Yeah, yeah. Why don't we gather some more information, if you could, Paul, that would be good. And then the last, before adjournment, is Robert's Rules of...
I have one more property, Mr. Chairman.
Oops, okay.
Maple Ridge property that you guys, that we had signed a purchase and sale agreement has fallen through. The original purchasers had to back out because they had financial difficulties. So, you still want to sell the property?
I have another person that is interested
That's the same like what Steve said.
in a butter.
Yeah, and the original owners have somebody else that wanted to do the same thing they're
So
doing.
why don't we just list it so it's fair?
So, that's my concern. I would like to list it if
Yeah, I would think, yeah. Like you say, as long as we're consistent with how we dispose of tax.
the only thing I haven't done is I got a call the main farm trust that was going to finance the first sale. If this has to go through farm trust, I don't know. There might be covenants on it because it was a farm. There might be a conservation easement. I don't know. I should have a chance to call.
Yeah, I guess
Is this the one with the neighbor, the well and the septic were on the neighbor's property anyways?
This is
that
the old
same one?
Conant farm on Maple Ridge.
What
The old
one?
Conant? I think it's
Yeah.
Conant.
Big field out there.
Yeah, well, that's the land we just sold to the dairy farmer too, part of that same parcel.
Right, but that's the one that fell through.
That fell through.
The dairy farmer cannot purchase it.
Oh, I did not realize that.
They came back from vacation and found massive electrical damage in their barn, and they're using their assets to fix the barn.
Because
Had to walk away from the sale.
well, that's a whole nother ball of wax. Because I don't think I think that Maine Farmland Trust has purchased the development rights on that piece of property from us and paid us for it, or we're going to.
But they were going to, but these people are backing out as buyers. That's the information I have to get.
Okay. You need more information.
But if
I can talk to the farmers.
I will make a call to the farm trust, but
Yeah.
Yeah, just bring it up at the next meeting.
And the other thing with that is the agricultural committee was dealing with that property. And maybe that's something we should talk about too at the agricultural.
Yeah,
there's a couple of people that are interested. That was the issue.
Yep.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, well, you know, and I think Steve's right, we have to be consistent. We put things through a realtor all the time, so I think that's a fair way to do it. And,
Well, that's relatively new. We used to put everything out to bid,
Right.
but we found a realtor gave us a better return,
yeah.
Yep.
so. We can do it either way, just as long as we're consistent.
And somebody on the agenda put on Robert's Rules of Order for meetings,
Me,
Yep, go ahead.
okay.
Does anybody want a copy of it? I got a copy of it.
You got an electronic, you got an electronic copy of it?
I don't. I didn't put it on the discussion, so this is what I have right here.
There was a book in the drawer for the chairman's drawer.
We gotta get a draw. We gotta get a draw. We don't have a draw here.
Does this go over to Trish now?
What? Oh, I'll get it.
I'll get it.
Thank you. Do not have the electronic version. Okay.
There we go.
Yes, right.
Got it?
So what's the?
There we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's
All
go
right.
before we get adjourned.
Well, I believe the only reason I put this is that we're starting to diverge from Robert's Rules of Order, where people are cutting in. I got two of these. People are cutting in at any time they feel like it without going through the chair. And we need to get back to the rules. I believe that we're required to follow Robert's rules, to have an orderly and progressive meeting so that we can get things done much quicker and better and not lose where we are. I'm not blaming anybody on anything, but we got to respect each other.
Yeah.
And no, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Do my best.
Yeah, and then, we shouldn't be snickering or laughing or raising hell.
Or sleeping.
What?
Or
So,
sleeping.
first of all, let's keep it, let's just follow what
Yeah.
we have to say here. Let's get through this discussion, and let's just get through it and follow this order at
Right.
this discussion.
From now on, I'd like, since we got copies of these, then we should ask Lisa to, give us an idea of what Robert's rules are. If
Well,
she-
Yep, I think we can review them. I
Yes.
think, under our bylaws, we follow Robert's Rules of Orders
Yeah.
here in the council chambers. I think previous chairs and myself have always tried to follow the rules as long, not to the letter of the law for the most part, but if we're respectful of each other, then, I believe that an open discussion and everything going through the chair at times, we have had to have that because we have been civil and we have respected the rights of other people. We had some very emotional topics over the years, and, we have to follow by our bylaws Robert's Rules of Order. That's what we have to do. And if we want to enforce going through the chair, and we feel that's necessary, then we really have no other choice, because that's what we're supposed to do.
No, I'm not saying to make it so tight that we increase the amount of time. But going through the chair, just like we were doing tonight, came out pretty good.
Well, from now on, then we're going to, because it's really a non-discussion point. It's a non-discussion. We follow Robert's Rules of Order, and for moving forward, we will follow Robert's Rules of Order moving forward. That is the way it's going to be. So that's it. I got nothing. I have no other option but to follow the rules. And if people want me to follow the rules, and I'll follow them. Yep, go ahead, Steve.
Through the chair, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Adjourn.